Hello, beautiful souls. Today we are exploring the topic of boundaries, what they are, how you can set them, and I was sent the most beautiful quote from a friend. Boundaries are the distance at which I can love you and me simultaneously. Welcome to the Divine Style. I'm your host, Gerlinda. I'm a psychic medium, self love coach, and energy healer. And I am excited to explore the topic of boundaries with you today. Towards the end of the episode, we have a visualization. So please do not drive or operate heavy machinery for that. What I find really fascinating about the topic of boundaries is how much I have struggled with them over my entire life from not being able to say no. And when I've said yes, I really haven't meant yes at times. I've actually meant no. And I can go into all the different reasons that this occurs. And there is a psychological component with our belief system that, potentially it was from the fact that my parents said, you can't say no to me. Don't say no to me. That's rude and disrespectful. And as much as our parents want to be good parents, sometimes, even myself as a parent, I have totally said the wrong thing and I'm still apologizing for it today with my kids. But boundaries are something that are so important to be able to function in this world with integrity and honesty and working with who you are as a person. If you don't have boundaries, then really you're at the whim of everybody else's wants and needs and desires. And there's differing levels of this. And it's really up to you as an individual what boundaries you are setting for your interactions with others. There's a philosophy that says that all problems are interpersonal problems. And if you were alone in the universe, well, you probably wouldn't have to worry about most of the problems that you have, that it's usually about the engagements that we have with others. And so, I really want you to think about the people that you are surrounding yourself with and think about, are they honoring your boundaries, and do they even know what your boundaries are? Have you ever asserted your boundaries? I know for myself, when I think of my family, I think that's sometimes the hardest one to really stand up to, because they have a way of making you feel guilty, or kind of manipulating a situation, especially if it's somebody that you genuinely love and you care for. When they're begging and saying, I really, 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 really need you to do this thing, it can feel impossible to say no, especially if you see someone in need. As empaths, as humans, we are empathic and we care about our fellow man and woman. And so it makes sense that when you see somebody in need, that you want to help them, but it has to be in your capacity. So I guess when it comes to boundaries, I want to talk about sort of three separate aspects of that. So one is where you're being asked to do things that you don't want to do. Another is where your physical boundaries are being crossed. So this could be, getting hugs when you don't want to hug. And then also, I want to talk about spiritual boundaries or soul boundaries, because this is really important if you are doing any spiritual work. And it really helps you to acknowledge who you are and who the other beings are that you're working with, because we need to have that discernment about who people are, and also what we're willing and not willing to put up with. Boundaries are based on your values and your belief systems, and different families and different groups will have different ways that they behave that are acceptable for some and not acceptable for others. And this is where it really comes down to knowing yourself and what's acceptable for you. So let's say that you have a friend who maybe has a lot of problems or a lot of issues, and maybe they call you a lot, and instead of you doing the things that you want to do, maybe it's a bubble bath or maybe go to the gym or go for a walk, you end up stuck on the phone to this friend and you don't know how to get out of it. So I think these questions start to come down to why are we doing the behaviors that we're doing and what is it that we want? And then how do we work towards that goal of what we want? So it could be to start with that you might just limit the time frame with this friend. So it could be that you might set a timer and you'll say, I'm so sorry, I've only got 15 minutes today. Actually, that's the other thing. Hear me, and my boundaries are already breaking. You do not have to apologize for putting a boundary in place. So it would be, I only have 15 minutes today. Thank you for understanding. In social media, it's been quite disturbing to see how many people have been getting unwanted physical touch and, forcing a kiss on someone or giving them a hug when they don't want one. I know myself, I am a hugger. And if you ever meet me in person, you will know that I will always offer a hug, but I will ask first. I've learnt that it's really important to respect the other people and their wants and needs too. And if you are working in a spiritual space, then you will also have come across how important it is to have boundaries in place from an energetic level as well. So, whether that's talking to spirit or working with other people's energy systems, you need to have boundaries. Otherwise, you can be absorbing things as an empath, as most of us, most of humanity is empaths. We feel into other people's feelings to differing degrees. So if you are one of those people that can really tune in and you can feel someone else's suffering, like myself, you tend to let things slide because you're wanting to make the other person feel better instead of stepping into your personal power, honoring yourself and honoring your desires and saying no. How do we put boundaries in place? I believe in the power of the pause. And so if I'm asked to do something and I don't have a resounding yes straight away, I will ask for some time. So I usually say I'll get back to you or let me check my calendar. And this gives me a little bit of a space, especially if, yeah, you're being asked to do something you don't want to do. And then I can come, come back and say no. Now, one of the important things that I have learned around boundaries is that ability to just say no without it being the I'm sorry or making up an excuse. You can simply say no. I think it's nice, as a human being to say, oh, I'm sorry, I can't make it, or I'm too busy, or whatever it might be. But you can simply say, oh, yeah, no, I can't make it is totally fine. You don't have to give a long list of reasons. When it comes to people invading sort of your physical space, and this could be again, it could be unwanted physical contact or advances from people that you really don't like. I mean, my daughters have been so phenomenal. I mean, I know I was taught not to be rude and be more, softer spoken and all those sorts of things growing up. And I know that I've been out with both my daughters. My youngest is 20 and my oldest is 23 now. And the way that they will stare down people or they will actually push back if somebody tries to touch them, I am just in awe of these young women these days to stopping those hands coming on them when they don't want them to. I know for myself, once I was in Japan and uh, I was walking through a touristy spot and this gentleman came up and grabbed me. I'll say gentleman, he was not a gentleman. This man came up and grabbed me on the backside and my husband was standing next to me and he didn't realize what had happened, but I chased this guy down. I was like going to catch him. I don't know what I was going to do if I caught him, but I chased him. I felt so violated. I was so angry because my physical boundary had been totally broken down. So I think it's really important that, that you realize that you have your autonomy, you have the ability to say no, you have the ability to speak up, and you don't have to put up with behaviors that you do not like. And lastly, so when it comes to the spiritual space, and I say this with the biggest smile on my face because I really have the pleasure of working with some incredible spirits and and people from the other side when they cross over. And I have had pretty much the majority of my experiences in this space have been overwhelmingly positive. But there are occasions where people do want to push boundaries with me once I go home. So I often have, when I've done mediumship readings, loved ones are just so passionate and so excited about being there and wanting to share information. Sometimes after my client has left, they'll continue talking to me because they'll want to share more information. And I usually say to them, you've got to go and try and give that information to them another way now. Our session is done. Working with spirit has really taught me to have better boundaries. It's really being able to say, this is my intention and for this engagement or this interaction, and this is what I'm willing to accept, and this is what I'm not willing to accept. The people in my life that really like to overstep my boundaries, I basically treat them like children. It sounds really patronizing, I know, but I usually say to them, hey, so first off, I need to let them know the behavior. So I'll acknowledge the behavior. So when you talk to me in that tone of voice, or when you talk to me about that specific topic, it makes me uncomfortable. If you continue to talk to me about that topic, I'm going to hang up the phone or I'm going to walk away. And then I follow through with that. Because just like children, they will try to push your boundaries. And some people don't want to be manipulative, and some people do. And that's just human nature. We're out to get the thing that we want. And often people will use other people to get their needs met. So, first and foremost, you need to look after you. You need to focus on what it is that you want and also how you want your relationships to be. And this is where the magic lies when we stop blaming others, stop blaming ourselves, stop blaming the situation, and begin taking responsibility. The visualization I am going to take you through is something that I have done since I was a little girl. My mum has done this, and it works for all types of boundaries, whether this is physical, emotional, spiritual, and it allows you to really come into yourself, to know that the I am presence that you are, that nothing can interfere with it. And everything else is like a filter. And when we talk about things being a mirror, it's looking at what it's showing up for you. This technique is one of my favorites. I use it daily. I've taught it to my children, my clients. It's something that really helps my energy field and helps me be able to create a barrier between myself and the outside world so I can think clearer throughout the day. And it also allows me to get better messages from spirit because I can block out all that external noise. Take a moment to get comfortable and we'll begin. Take a moment to center yourself, sitting with your feet on the ground, taking a few deep breaths, imagining a beautiful white light streaming down through the top of your head, out of the bottom of your feet, filling you with loving warmth and kindness. Imagine that this light is expanding from you, creating a bubble. This bubble of light can be any color you choose. And only you reside within this bubble, within this space. You also control how large or how small the bubble is around you. take some time to expand it now and feel what it feels like to expand that energy out. And then feel what it feels like to contract that energy and bring it back around you. Now bring to mind a situation or relationship where you would like to establish better boundaries. Reflect on what you need to feel safe, respected, and valued in this interaction. Visualize these needs as another glowing color flowing out from within you, creating another circle, another bubble. Imagine this boundary shimmering and glittering, extending from you in all directions. It is firm and clear, yet flexible to allow positive interactions and energy to flow through. Say to yourself quietly, I honor and respect myself by setting clear boundaries. I deserve to be treated with kindness and respect. I am worthy of love for both myself and for others. Now, from within the center of your being, allow yourself to feel the strength that comes from honoring your boundaries. Notice any sensations arise as you feel more deeply connected to that inner wisdom and guidance. Express gratitude for this opportunity to nurture yourself and strengthen your boundaries. When you are ready, gently bring your awareness back to the present moment, breathing in deeply, wriggling your fingers and toes, and slowly opening your eyes. The bubble of light technique is something that I've used since I was a little girl. You can use it to magnetize whatever it is you want to bring to you and repel the things that are not working for you. I want to say thank you so much for joining me on the Divine Style. I am hosting monthly so grateful for you listening. These are complimentary. I want to do something to find out more about these, all of you. You can do so and I've created a beautiful monthly spiritual group called Please Take a Moment to write a review. If you would like to know more about those, you can jump on gerlinda.com.au. They are completely complimentary and are my gift to you. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please take the time to give it a review. Your reviews go a long way to spreading the word about self-love, spirituality, and self-discovery. Thanks again.